All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the episode of Old Reader, New Reader. I am joined today by Tina, who many of you have seen on the channel before, aka White Cat Cosplay, aka Professional Tina, sometimes TikTok Tina. You never know. And a new face, my dear friend, Alex.
Hello.
AKA Heckin' Sleepy on most, if not all, social platforms now.
I tried to kind of make it unified across the board, even though the punctuation is different, which we noticed just now. Oops. I'll fix it later.
So easy to find. And you can find Alex often on Twitch if you want to say anything about it or plug it or whatever. It's in the description.
So I stream Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. Usually I play Monster Hunter, but I stream all sorts of games.
Nice.
I want you and Kate to play It Takes Two, but mostly because I want everyone to play It Takes Two.
I have it now. I just picked it up because I loved A Way Out, and I think it's the same team if I'm remembering right. But
if it is, that's really interesting. Yeah, because I played that too. This is a very different game.
Yes. Way Out was very, very dramatic. This looks a little bit more whimsical.
Yeah, I want Tina and Heather to play it too. Basically, any couple I know, I've just been like, hey.
Just suggest it to literally everybody.
Do you all play it?
She already hit me up. She was like, hey guys, you need to play this game. It's
really like Maddie does.
Yeah. Just like, the show, I'm like, hey, so eventually you should read a thing. And luckily, Monster was voted on for Patreon. We had to move it because some things came up, but
some things came up, and look how this is all Maddie's, but look how thick Monster is.
I'm gonna go back and buy those for sure. I was kind of on the fence about maybe I'll want to go back and read it, but I as soon as I finished it, I was like, should I restart it right now?
Right.
I couldn't believe just how good it was and how eager I was to just keep going and keep going.
Yeah, and I got a deal on those. I bought them from somebody used. I think they're not into it, which is wild.
Really?
I spent $90 for all of that.
That's amazing.
Those are some thick boys.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're what? It's 9 volumes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 2-in-1.
Yeah.
Yeah. These retail at 20 USD. So $10. You got it half off, Maddie. That's nice.
Yeah, and I want to buy all of Naoki Urasawa's everything. I really want to get all of Pluto. I think they're done with 20th Century Boys now.
I have no idea. That's been going for such a long time.
But so good. And I want everybody to watch that movie too, 20th Century Boys. Everyone should watch the Monster anime. If you can find it, I think it's on YouTube. They never officially re-released it anywhere.
Which makes me so upset. I was looking to pick up the home release just so I could binge it really quick, but it's nowhere. I don't think it's licensed in America right now. It's not streaming anywhere. You can't pick up secondhand DVD sets for less than $300.
No, and I luckily had the hookup, so I have it all digital copies. So I've just been sending Google links to friends, oh, don't worry, I've got it. And that's the only thing I have that's like that. I'm just here you go. I have all Monster with the subtitles.
I just have to interrupt, but Star Wars fan, too bad Elliot isn't here because he said that's a monstrous amount of books.
Oh, that's a good one.
I love that.
Okay, so one more volume to complete it. Okay. My dog, sorry, she's probably going to open the door behind me. It's going to be loud, but it is what it is. James says, welcome to Old Reader, New Reader, Alex and Tina.
Hello. Thank you.
Looks like James is hoping that Tina, you would be cosplaying as Tenma or Johan.
I almost thought about cosplaying, but I didn't have enough energy. And honestly, the thing that I was going to cosplay was the monster from the storybook. Just do a mask. And I was like, that would totally just if I show up with that, Maddie'd be like, oh my God. But then I was like, I don't have the energy to do it this week.
I'll never forget MatsuriCon cosplay contest.
Right, you were like, that's...
When the monster was there, and they must have thought I was a crazy person because I was so excited about it. And they're like, thanks. I was like, I love Monster.
I don't think anybody but you in the crowd knew who it was. Maybe some fanboys in the back, but
That's why it's cool being part of the comic book collecting community, because they're all like, no, we all know Monster. We may not collect all the manga, but we all collect Monster. Okay, cool. So anyways, that's what we're talking about today, Monster by Naoki Urasawa. There will be some spoilers in this video. But if you're interested in what this is about, the quick and dirty of it is basically, it centers around this Japanese doctor, Dr. Tenma, who is working in Germany in what is like the 90s, 80s?
It starts in the 80s.
It feels very 80s.
86, 87.
Okay.
1986.
Okay. And he's working in Germany. Things are going well for him. You know, he's up and coming. He's dating like the hospital director's daughter. Going pretty well, you know. But he gets into some situations where like the hospital's like administration wants to pressure him to save rich people or important people over who comes first or over people in need. They're like, we don't care about that lady, or we don't care about this kid. The mayor needs you. And it just takes one mistake for him to be like, actually, I don't want to work this way. I'm a doctor. I should be helping patients as they come in. It should be based on, you know, their status. And so Dr. Tenma is a bro. He's great. Yeah. But so this situation comes in. There's a kid. He decides to save the kid over the mayor or whoever. And, you know, that seems like the right thing to do. And this is like a not super spoilers, like it's like immediate. This happens right in the beginning. And maybe that kid is a killer. Whoops.
Oops.
And so the whole rest of the book is him trying to find this kid, try to stop him, while also dealing with this inner turmoil in himself. Like, I'm a doctor, I shouldn't kill. But by saving this kid, I've created a killer, and so many other lives have been lost because of me. So what does that mean for me? So the whole story really centers around Dr. Tenma and his like grief and issue with that, amongst this like way larger picture behind this kid, his family, how that came to be. And it's just so much bigger than it seems, but at its heart, that's the story, which is, if that was all it was, it's still great, but it's so much more. And the whole time you're like, what is this? So that's my like very quick, short summary of like you see in the back of the book. But yeah, that's Monster. So yeah, Tina, this was your first time reading it, and Alex, yes. Is this a reread, or had you watched it before? I can remember.
So I had watched it when it aired on the Sci-Fi Channel. I didn't catch all of it because it was one of those things that it was like, I don't know, like every weekday night or something. So I couldn't catch every single episode as it was coming out. But the story was just incredible. So, you know, having the chance to go back into it for this, I was just like, yes, please. Let me finally catch like all the bits that I missed.
That's really exciting, because I'd watched the anime first. Mm-hmm. And then I finally read the manga for another show a few months ago or something. I don't know. Time doesn't exist. And then finally get into it here. It's definitely a very different experience. I would say that it's the same. It lines up perfectly well with the anime. The benefit of the anime is you get some like nice ambiance music, which I really enjoy. Personally.
The soundtrack is absolutely perfect.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
I'm very disappointed I haven't watched the anime. I haven't watched the original, you know, back when it was shown on Sci-Fi or whenever.
We can have a watch party. I think that's the best way to do it.
Okay.
With other people. But the manga's wonderful. And Naoki Urasawa, everything he makes is just gold. I've never been disappointed. I read one book of his I thought was okay. And everything else has been perfect. So I think that's fine. You get an okay book. That's okay. So what's your first impressions, you guys? And then we could dig into the nitty-gritty of it.
Do you want to go first, Tina?
I can, absolutely. So first time reading this, you know, I've got my own, you know, things that I like and enjoy. And while I do watch, the only thing I actually watch live action or listen about real people is actually true crime. But as far as manga and anime, I'm not very much into that suspense, detective, you know, that sort of genre. So I never had any desire of picking up Monster because I kind of knew lightly what it was about, but I was like, I was surprised how much I actually enjoyed this. But one of my like ending thoughts was this is a long way around to basically saying that life, how you should lead it, is the best way to lead it. But making that discovery throughout your entire life, does that seem kind of weird? But that's kind of like what I got out of it.
I think
there's a whole bunch of horrible, icky stuff that happens, and people are just horrible, icky. But those horrible, icky people actually find a way about to say, what Dr. Tenma had in the original part of his life. That's actually what we should have done all along.
And I think like a lot of the people that so there's this orphanage where all of these horrible things happened, and people that got terribly treated throughout their entire lives grew up, including the main antagonist Johan. There were several other people that Tenma encounters that were tied in with the orphanage, or that were like faculty there, that have gone on to just lead these wonderful lives and like learn from how terribly they were treated, and how they can make things better for themselves and for other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's just been a great part of the whole series. Like, talking about people that kind of surprise you, I guess. One of my favorite parts of this book is where Tenma almost kind of goes on like a shonen protagonist run in a way. Mm-hmm. Because he's on the run. People think that he killed these different people, and they're like, okay, Tenma's blacklisted. We have to go get him. And he looks real bad. It looks rough.
He looks a little sketchy at that point in time.
And he's on the run, and on the way, he gets these different situations where he has to help people. Well, he doesn't have to, but he chooses to. Situations where he's like, no, I'm a doctor first. I'm going to be here. And all these people along the way have his back.
That's one of my favorite things, is like they never stop with characterizing Tenma as a doctor first. Like anytime that there is any kind of like medical crisis, or he encounters someone that's been like, hit by a car or something, he will always just drop everything to help them. And that's one of the things that bugs me the most in like, I think the example that I always use is the American 2014 Godzilla. The main character, Ford Brody, is characterized as like a like bomb disposal unit guy. And that's why he's got to be the guy that's got to go and like defuse the bomb at the end of the movie. And then he doesn't. And I'm like, what was the point? But like, they introduced Tenma as a doctor, and then they never stop with him doing like just surgeries and medical procedures on random people that he finds on the street.
He's the most consistent character in this, I will say. Like, out of all the people, even though he comes to a sort of revelation, his core being never changes. While other people in the series go about this metamorphosis, he's actually a fairly static character, which is nice to see throughout the series.
Oh, yeah. Well, you just get to see how he affects everyone around him.
Right.
And I guess we can kind of like go character by character or arc, or if we went book by book, girl, I wouldn't even know. If you want to leave that,
I could definitely leave this.
But
so why don't we start with our original assessment? And this is, if you don't mind, I would love to do that, because each character changes through different arc and through this. I want to talk about, and one of my most hated characters in the very first volume.
Is it Eva?
No, Heinrich.
Really?
Yes.
I thought. I love him.
No, I grew to love him. Spoilers. I really loved him at the end, but I absolutely detested him.
He was
in the first
the one that showed up at the hospital first and was looking into the initial murder case.
He's doing his mind palace.
Yes.
I love a good
mind
palace.
Typing and is saying, and he's all about the case, and this case has intrigued him, and he's going to get his man no matter what it takes, and he's got this theory and he's fleshing it out, and it's Dr. Kinzo. So Tenma, it's I hated him so much. I just wanted to be like, oh, you stupid detective.
Makes sense.
He was just like Tommy Lee Jones' character in that Harrison Ford movie. Was it The Fugitive, I think?
I think so.
If I'm remembering it right. He was the one that came back in U.S. Marshals, but irrelevant. But yet, like, he's just following Tommy Lee, or he's following Harrison Ford the whole movie, and Harrison Ford confronts him and is like, I didn't kill my wife, and has the opportunity to kill him, and then Tommy Lee Jones just says, I don't care, and just keeps pursuing him anyway.
Right.
Well, yeah, because he's the type of cop that's like, I made my decision. Now I'm going to go get information and back it up. I've decided this is it. That's basically what happens. Is like, of course that evolves, but yeah.
That evolves. And just like Tenma is a doctor, Heinrich is a detective. So these two characters are these are what they do, and they will follow it through to the end. Which, Heinrich loses his family, spoilers in this, but he's very geared into what he's doing. And we're totally missing a character that we haven't even mentioned, is the twins. So his sister appears in this. So not only did Dr. Tenma save this little boy, the little boy actually had a twin sister who looks almost identical. Obviously, they're fraternal, but looks almost identical. Which comes into play very heavily throughout the series. I didn't imagine that she would. Very important plot point. I didn't imagine that she would appear so heavily, especially at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, because like after he saves him, they kind of get separated in a way, and she goes on and lives her own life, not remembering any of this. Has a different name, Anna Liebert. Right.
She grew up with a very nice family, and that's kind of where this book kind of ends, with that dissolution of her family unit, or what she, knew as her family unit, and the gathering of, or reemergence of memories.
Real quick. Thank you so much, Scotty G. Scotty G says, hey, Maddie, I missed the last couple of live shows because my job in real estate has been super crazy busy. Keep on smiling, Brayden, the great guest. Thank you. Thank you, Scotty. Sorry, continue. But we did talk about Ava. I won't allow us not to.
She's horrible.
And you know what? She stays horrible.
She's also very consistent. She's just consistently horrible the entire way through.
Oh my God.
I hated her until the last little bit.
Ooh, girl, because she's just that super bitchy girlfriend that's like, no, I only care about looks, and like, Tenma, honey, I need you to like keep rising the ranks, so my daddy will like promote you, and so I can be rich. And in the minute anything goes bad for Tenma, when he saves a kid and not that other guy, she's like, peace, I'm gonna go date that ugly guy. I'll see ya.
While we're on like the Ava subject, there was that small town doctor that Tenma encounters pretty early in his like journey across Germany. That just happens to have like the exact same story that he did, where he was like engaged to the hospital director's daughter and like got married and just like wanted to talk about how miserable his life was because of it. And we were just like, yes, good. Tenma made the best decision.
Oh my God.
But the doctor, he was like, basically this is what your life could have been like if you followed through. But I found the redeeming thing is that the wife that he married, who may have, been the same as Ava, he found out that he actually did love his wife, but she was taken away when he discovered that. It's kind of interesting. Like, is that the way that Dr. Tenma's relationship would have ended up? Would they have rediscovered and actually been given more humanity as they grew older?
Star Wars fan said this sounds like better Death Note, and I like Death Note. Honestly, I think that's a good summary, because I think Death Note is a perfect like entryway to manga like this, because you have that like really interesting relationship between like your villain and your detective sort of deal, and things are kind of iffy and bigger picture. And this, I think, is like a much more mature telling of something like that,
and way more grounded.
Oh, really grounded.
Right, where Death actually has an embodiment in Death Note. Death is a very large figure in this, but there's no physical embodiment. It's embodied by the characters, the criminal organizations, the actions that the characters carry out, and just, even though you don't see it, the war. Basically, the remains of war and how death kind of lingers and is prevalent and breeds into the society from, overarching, destruction of, just long war and that mindset.
Mm-hmm. And we didn't really talk about Johan that much, actually.
No, we haven't.
Johan's our big bad. So that's who Tenma saves. He's a very just beautiful young boy. And whenever he wakes up, the sister freaks out. They're trying to make this big media picture, these two beautiful blonde twins reuniting if their parents were dead. Mm-hmm. And she just flips out. And this whole time while like he's been, out, Tenma's like, man, shit's rough, it's too bad. And immediately Johan kills somebody with like poison candy, basically for him in a weird way. And thus starts like this long running of their weird relationship where it's like almost Johan just kind of waiting for him. Almost like not Joker Batman, but I was trying to think of like that type of relationship where it's very reciprocal, where he's just like egging him on. He's always there to show up and just like drive Tenma crazy.
I think like the best example of their like duality is the whole arc at the college, with just how Johan wants to set up and manipulate these situations so that like Tenma will have to show up and have to act, and force him into these situations where he could very easily do the wrong thing and get a lot of people hurt or killed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's what makes him so interesting, right? Because he's just like, more often than not, he's not actually doing anything.
Right.
And that's why he's so intelligent and amazing. That's why he started that way, right? Where he's just so charismatic and so intelligent, which is weird because he's so deadpan if you look at him in the manga. But he can convince anyone to do anything for him. He just kind of like slithers his way in there.
Well, people trust beauty. Although it's not really talked about. I mean, that's kind of like the thing. Like, he's gorgeous, he's beautiful, and he plays that sort of male model stereotype where people just kind of lay down for him. If he wants something, and all he has to do is kind of smile, wink, and say a sweet word, and they're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, sure, here, honey." Especially when they're kids. He can just find his way. Live through different people, just by sweet talking.
Mm-hmm. Let me upload a picture of him so we can show people. But you guys keep talking.
Man, yeah, he's just absolutely terrifying. Like you don't look at that and say, "Oh my God, what a horrifying individual." But anytime that he's around, his presence is definitely felt, especially when it's just a silhouette that you're seeing that's like trailing behind this person, and you're just like, oh God, is it Johan? Are they just dead on the spot?
Yeah, because you don't really see much of it. Surprisingly, you do not see much of Johan throughout the series until a large chunk of the end. That's when he really comes more into an active role. But for most of the story in the beginning, he's sort of like this shadow figure, the shadow man. He's talked about, he's pulling strings, he's, getting things going, but he's not really active in the actual situation that's occurring. He's kind of masterminding it. And Tenma's just following along and trying to discover the pieces that Johan's laid out for him.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the super chat. Maddie's no scrunch. And I really appreciate once we get like Anna Liebert, aka what's her actual name?
Nina Fortner.
Nina. Yes.
Yeah, that's not her. It never really says that
Anna's her real name.
Anna,
yeah. Well,
Nina's
allegedly. That was their name when they were adopted by that political couple that escaped from East Germany.
We definitely have to talk about the thing, all that later. But because I never got to talk about, we didn't do spoilers in my other show that we talked about.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We don't do spoilers on Fangirls. But yeah, like whenever we get that nice team up with Anna and Tenma, I really like that.
Yes.
And we get to watch Anna relive all this stuff. Because all of her memories are so disjointed and she's been through so much trauma. And obviously Johan's a sociopath. He's fine. But Anna's a normal person. And so she also can't let go of it. Once she realizes and remembers, she's like, I have nothing else. I have to do this. I have to figure this out. And their unlikely friendship and like little team up is pretty great.
It's kind of a interesting team up / family, because I think like very closely on, you find out in volume 2 that Johann had some guidance himself from a sort of like shady individuals that were shaping him or wanted to shape the next generation. So this is right during or post World War II. It's when the Berlin Wall was up. There was a lot of weird stuff going on, a lot of experimenting going on, and these children were subject to experiments. And when Dr. Timma kind of starts finding out about little pieces of Johann's backstory, that's when he kind of finds a young boy, very much kind of ending up kind of like how Johann was, one of the main figures that helped shape Johann how he is today, or, is actually kind of doing the same to this little boy. And Tenma really becomes a father figure to, his name's Dieter.
You guys, Dieter's the best.
Right.
And I love this because this is when it becomes one of my favorite tropes in anything, which is
Lone Wolf and Cub?
Yeah, basically like man with trauma who hasn't shaved adopts young child. Done. Found family. Mandalorian's the same way.
Yeah, I was going to say it's like the same thing in Mando.
The Last of Us.
Yep.
This is what I like to see. And so immediately I'm like, yes, because Dieter's like, I'm going to follow you. And Tim was like, you can't. I'm on a dark journey. And I'm dealing with stuff. He's like, whatever, I'm going to follow you anyways. And he does. And it's great. And he's there forever.
Right, and the other characters know, although I don't think Dr. Tenma needed, so Dieter kind of serves the role of anchoring Tenma into a good moral compass. Like, hey, you've got to do stuff right by the book because, you've got Dieter who's going to help you. But Dr. Tenma actually isn't with Dieter as often as, I guess these other characters would want. Dr. Tenma doesn't really need that compass, but it does kind of help pull him in certain directions, which is nice to say. Although Tenma is a good guy, he's going to make the right decisions. Dieter helps keep that compass straight rather than kind of margin this way or that way.
Especially because Tenma's given up on himself.
Right, but Dieter hasn't.
Yeah, Dieter hasn't, Anna hasn't, all of the other people like surrounding him are like, no, we're here for you. And we're supporting you. We're going to find Johann, whatever. But like, we also don't want you to like die. So.
And I don't know how spoiler heavy can we get?
I think it's okay.
This? Okay. So, that I think it's like one or two chapters, like immediately after Tenma gets arrested briefly, when it shows like every single one of the people that Tenma has been helping throughout the whole manga, like coming together to be like, we're going to find him the best lawyer. We're going to come and get like a defense fund. If he needs like a bail, we'll get that set. Like everybody shows up.
I love it. I love situations like that. That's why I was comparing it to like a shonen manga because it's very One Piece.
There's a lot of characters in here that kind of make their appearance, do their part, and you think they're done, and they reappear later.
Speaking of which, I would be very sad if we did not talk about the goat of the whole manga, which is Wolfgang Grimmer.
Oh yeah, my favorite character. Yeah, absolute best.
Oh my god.
Yeah, like devastating.
Yeah,
devastating.
That was a surprise character that I didn't think I was gonna. I thought he was just gonna be like this little in out.
No,
Yep, one and done like a lot of the other just kind of they're for plot conveniences. They get some cool character development and then they're out.
Right.
But Wolfgang, oh my gosh, he's also from like a similar program.
He's from the same program.
Yeah, same program, but
same program that Johann, but before that, and there's a lot of like little tidbits that they give you that you make that connection far in. So Grimmer's from the same school of boys or whatever that Johann was.
Kinderheim 511.
Yes. And he was there with another one, and he can't remember. Nobody can remember each other. They have memory problems. But it's very interesting that his friend, that he's like, I want to remember the friend. And we said we were going to remember certain things. And I remembered, I can't remember, what he looked like, what his name was, but he loved hot chocolate. So I would give my hot chocolate to my friend. And I think that tells you about Grimmer's compass, that even though really horrible stuff was done to this guy, even though he says he doesn't have feelings, they're there. He's just created this wall, this double personality to protect himself and others.
Bless him. This poor man's like, I don't have any feelings, but I just keep smiling anyways.
God. And then when they reveal like who his friend was that he was giving the hot chocolate to, and how awful of a person he's turned out to be, and like the terrible things that he's gotten involved with, like, and you see just how good a job Grimmer has done at like improving his life since Kinderheim.
I know, and the fact that was, that one guy's like nephew too was crazy, that it all just sort of fell along.
And we definitely talk about so Grimmer loved this character, the magnificent Steiner.
Steiner.
And basically it's the result of them exposing him to, because they're all experimenting with these kids in different ways to see how they can make a leader. Right. They're looking to make someone like Johann, basically. And they show him a lot of different, like a lot of TV. And through that, he basically has this thing where he's in this, if he's in a severe situation, he kind of blacks out. And the Magnificent Steiner comes out. And he's always mentioned this, like, well, the Magnificent Steiner always shows up and like saves me, Right. And then that's what happens to him. He blacks out, kills a bunch of people. And that's the whole...
That was his safe space. That's what the young Grimmer did as a child. Like when he would go through these awful circumstances, he would flip. And that's, a very well-known, mental thing to, regress and, someone become somebody else, have somebody come to the forefront. It's not me that's committing these things. It's not me that's experiencing it. It's somebody else. And like, while he did that to protect him, it's created sort of this disembodiment in his life. This
Wikipedia has quotes from him, which is like devastating. Because there's one quote that says, "So this is what true sadness feels like. It feels a lot like happiness."
It's so bad. Yeah, his whole life, like afterwards, he talks about how he's just like going through the motions, just doing what society, like what he feels like society expects him to do.
Right. I was a spy to be a better spy. You get married, you have a kid because no one suspects a married man with a, wife, and then, I found my son unresponsive. So I did everything I was supposed to try to save him. But, my wife was mad because I didn't cry. I should have cried when my son died. And, he's like, why didn't I cry? So instead, I just smile. But he's dying inside.
It's so bad. God.
Such a good character. And there's so many good characters like that in this. I think that's why it's so great. Because, like, sure, Tem is fantastic. Johann is so interesting. So is Anna. But, like, oh, my God, Grimmer.
And they set up... all these characters that were involved with Kinderheim as just being these awful people, like the foster father for Dieter, and then there's the one that you're kind of expecting to be very similar, the Tenma encounters in Czechoslovakia, that is like running another orphanage, and Tenma's like freaking out because he's like, oh no, I can't allow this to happen again. And it turns out he's just the nicest old man that's teaching these kids to like love and value and appreciate everything that they have, and like it's just so like not everyone turned out the same way from these the same circumstances.
Yeah. So I guess I can hear your cat.
Yeah, that's my deaf cat. Even if I shout at her, she won't shut up.
So I guess since we talked about some of the main characters, we can kind of talk about the big thing. Actually, first, we have a good question from Gabriella to answer. Or Gabby, sorry. Who are each of your favorite characters from Monster?
Oh, like other than Grimmer? Because Grimmer's
right.
just so good. I Wow. I can't remember. I knew this was going to happen, but the other psychologist that was in Tenma's high school, or not high school, college class, that they were like both cheating on the same course, and
and he was like, I knew Dr. Tenma was going to turn me in, and then he was like, but I was also cheating.
Yeah, I was cheating on the
Rudy?
same test. Yes, yeah, Rudy.
I have the thing open. That's why I was like.
Yeah,
because I went to their teacher first.
Say he's probably second favorite.
Second favorite. Yeah, Grimmer's really high, and surprisingly, Heinrich. I actually really loved Heinrich at the end.
Yeah, as a not like primary antagonist, but like a secondary antagonist, I think he's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's just an interesting character.
Yeah.
He's just so like. I love characters like that think like that. He's also just very intelligent but in a different way. I love that little character trait he gave him of like, because I love seeing how different people use mind palaces. I used it in college to pass tests. I could not type my things out like that, but that's really cool.
Right.
I love that.
I also really liked the other detective in where is it? Savatkia?
Jan?
Yes.
Yeah, Jan was great. Another sweet boy.
He was definitely a sweet boy that was in over his head.
Mm-hmm.
And his mama was worried about him.
Yep. And just said, hey, I found some corruption. Who do I tell about it? Oh, the next higher up, also corrupt. Oh, who do they tell about it? The next higher up, also corrupt.
As far as my favorite character, I'm a Tenma girl. 100%.
You're a Tenma.
I love him.
He was just so good to be good that for some reason he didn't rank up. Maybe he's like my 4th or 5th, but like he's down there.
So I guess the next good thing to talk about is just like the big overall plot at the end. We have everybody come in the same place.
The final like gathering that everyone has in Ruinheim.
Yeah, because you're learning, because you learn that's more than just Kinderheim. Because like for a while we're thinking, okay, it's this orphanage that's in charge of it. This is what's created it. This is what made Johann. But we learn that it's much.
They're all players. Yeah. So there's all these little bits. So there was this really big thing, and you can tell that these things were splintered and thrown apart. So all these different actors had a unique and singular meeting spot. And so you're kind of back tracing them. And so Kinderheim 511 is one of those spots. It's kind of like if you've got a little tree diagram and you're tracing it back. So there's this orphanage, there's this person who runs this other orphanage, and you find that they have all these connections, but how do all these people in total connect together? And so they basically trace them down to Kinderheim. But then you find out that there's this one individual that is really the ringleader for everybody involved.
And I don't remember his name, but he was the guy that was writing the children's books.
Well, he had different names.
Yeah, that's right.
He went by, was it Peter Sepik?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
among other things.
The Nameless Monster is a picture book written and illustrated by Franz Bonaparte under the name Emile Scherbe.
Was Franz Bonaparte his actual name? There were so many.
I think so, because he's the one who started the whole eugenics experiment and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Klaus Pope
yeah,
is his actual name.
Okay.
All of his he's like 4 aliases.
There's a lot.
Yeah. I could never I was like, which one is his actual name, because he had a real son.
Maddie, thank you.
Aww.
Thanks. It's very nice. Bob Saget. I mean, could be. That's it. Bob Saget's behind this.
Oh, it was his birthday, I think, yesterday.
Look at us. But yeah, because we find out that like there was more happening before even Kinderheim, and the reason why Johann performed so well at Kinderheim by getting everybody to die is because he had prior sort of like psychological things going on,
right?
And
so
it
was
ties into the Red Rose Mansion. Man,
Right.
Red Rose
With
Man.
the reading, what is it? The reading room or the reading group?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you find out that the twins were a product of basically eugenic, or sort of like a play on genetics. Like they were looking, the part of the carryover from World War II, they were looking for the perfect human, essentially. And that's where it's sort of like those Nazis come in, but they're just
We didn't
bit
talk
players.
about any of that.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about that, but that's part of the overall, these different players trying to get their hand in what this original guy started.
And the good thing is, even as we're telling you all this, I can guarantee you there's so much. You can say hi.
There's so much that you're just
I won't even begin to ruin this experience because there's so much you'd have to know. But yeah, because then that's when we realize about like the real, not even the real trauma, because we still don't know everything. But the beginning of this sort of like trauma for them, who's in that situation with their mother, quote unquote.
Right. And Nina, and this is where
had to give up one of them.
Yeah. So Nina starts becoming a little bit more involved, and you kind of find out more about her backstory in this little section when you get to the heart of the matter, the heart of who started this all. And you kind of find out that this reading group, these children's stories were actually philosophical thought and trying to shape these children from a very early age into something different. And they were using these twins from, this perfect human specimen, couple to try to shape the next generation, to mold the person, mold. And it's kind of unclear what they exactly were trying to mold at that point in time.
Yeah.
These people thought they knew what they wanted to mold, but I don't think they ever really knew just what Knopf wanted to mold somebody into.
Oh yeah, well, it's so confusing too, because at this point, like, we get this background where we keep seeing this image of basically two Annas, and the mother gives up one of them, and it's sort of like the start. And they keep using this weird thing where they're like, we don't know who left the room and who came back to the room. So they keep doing this whole thing where you're like,
is it Anna's memories? Is it Johann's memories? Which one is the real memory? Who experienced which one? And it comes back down to certain series of events influence the next turn of events, and that it goes back to Dr. Tenma's situation, Dr. Tenma's dilemma. Should I save this one or should I save this one? And that's the same situation the mother faces. Which child should I save? Which human should I save from this trauma? Should I save this one or should I save this one? And Johann's whole, thing, what leads him into the future is that very choice. So just like Dr. Tenma that influenced his future setting, Johann's situation was influenced by one person's choice on his life. And it had that effect, that ripple effect.
I mean, everything being connected throughout the entire series is just masterful. Like the amount of plot details that will just be like temporarily dropped, and then they'll come back up in a huge way like later on, and you don't think that these things would connect, but like it doesn't necessarily even have to, but it's amazing that it does.
Oh yeah.
Right. And the children's books, Knopf's children's books, it actually, to give a little bit of way here, because you do meet Knopf in the very end, in the very last village, this little last piece, and you find that even though he's created a swath of destruction by what he's done, by all the choices that he's made, in the end, he decided to change. And you see this through his children's, stories. His very last book that had a very limited publish, you can see that he regrets his decisions, that he's trying to help people, but in the end, he's the real monster.
Damn.
It all loops back around.
It all loops back around. So his own children's books are telling his life story essentially. Which is really interesting. It's very sad in the end that you have to spend your entire life, thinking where your decisions are leading, that you think you're doing the best thing, that you're darn the consequences. But then in the end, you come around saying, I've been a monster this entire time, and I've made the wrong choices, and I've influenced a swath of destruction, and I'm going to try to influence people to make better decisions. And it doesn't matter because your past choices catch up to you.
And I think that's one of the coolest things that they do too with the storybooks. Like they in canon and outside of the canon are like, you have to like understand what is actually being like talked about in these books. Like when they're talking about the story groups, and like after he's done reading the story, he'll say, now what was that story about? Like make sure that the children and the audience are grasping what the moral of the story was.
And one thing I like about the anime a lot compared to the manga is that you also get extra time with a story, because the ending theme throughout the whole show, just like 50 something episodes.
74 episodes.
74.
Oh my goodness. Yes, we're going to watch this in one night. Just like I read this in 2 nights.
It was so tough for me that I could, and you know me, I'll binge anything, anytime. But it was so rough. I think it was harder with the music, where I can only watch a few episodes because it would be too much for me.
Like, I'll watch stress and anxiety.
I'll listen to so much true crime.
It's like Silent Hill level of like anxiety-inducing music.
But so, like, the ending theme with this like really weird song, which I would sing, but I don't want to do that, girl.
That is not my.
But I have sung in a karaoke. It's just a story, and it progresses in the story as the show progresses.
Do you think the anime adaptation did justice to the manga?
Absolutely.
Because there's so much meat in the manga. I can't even imagine.
It is all there.
Yep, which is why it's 74 episodes.
Like, we haven't even.
It seems like a lot for something that's, like it's a relatively quick read for a manga, but like there's so much like depth to everything, and like so much dialogue that is going back and forth to make sure that you like fully grasp these characters and their situations, that like the anime does such a perfect job, like takes its time with everything that it needs to.
Yeah, honestly, I think it only improves upon it.
Okay.
Thank you again for the super chat. You think I'm gonna do that? No scrunch for you, but it's not gonna happen, bud. $5? It's not enough. No, I think it does justice. I think it improves upon it personally. I think I still prefer the anime to the manga, but I like both. I still love both. Mm-hmm. And I haven't finished reading all of 20th/21st Century Boys, but I love the live action movie for those. I think they're fantastic.
They're easier to digest. Usually,
literally can't buy them, really, but they're really good.
That's a really rare thing too, for like a good live action adaptation. Which, speaking of, they've been trying to do a live action adaptation of this for 20 years probably at this point, and just can never get it off the ground, which is surprising to me because
it was a big name. There was a big name that was trying to get that done through HBO Max. I forgot who it was.
I could see it done as a series.
Del
Toro. It could not be.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think he would do amazing justice for this.
Absolutely.
And it should be like, oh my God, Robin, you got yourself up on the shelf. He's
having a hard time.
That's not my fault.
I think that having, especially with the contrast between like the storybook sections and the real world stuff, I think that like the tone that he had in like Pan's Labyrinth would be just perfect.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's that very sinister thing. Like, children's books aren't supposed to be sinister. They're not supposed to be, nitty gritty. But when it comes down, it makes it even more sinister that some of these ideals that these adults were trying to pervade into these children's minds were conveyed through these children's books. And there's two meanings when you read these little stories, these little bits, you can take multiple meanings out of the same story. And I feel we didn't even talk about Anastasia with Nop's actual biological son. I think that's one of the most depressed out of all the characters. I think he's one of the most depressing characters besides Grimmer. Is Nop's son, because he was like, I just wasn't good enough. But it's not necessarily, he's seeing it in a different way than I think I saw it in my own eye. I think his father actually was trying to save him in a weird way.
That's kind of what I got out of it.
But he saw it as, I'm a reject. I'm not good enough. And that influenced his life, because your interpretation of how others feel about you impact your life as well.
Good. I know we're getting close to time, but I'm cool to chill a little bit later after time if you guys are free.
Yeah.
Because normally around this time is when we give our rating out of 10, and then we chill with the chat. So I know we've had some questions about different manga questions. So, friends, would you like to rate Naoki Urasawa's Monster out of 10? I'm happy to go first. It's a 10 out of 10 because it's like Alex said, like he's very consistent in his world building of this, and it wraps up perfectly. And I think for a series this long, that's not something you're going to see in a lot of manga or comic books. Even people usually lose their way. Naoki Urasawa does not do that with the stories. He didn't do it with Pluto. He didn't do it with this. It is perfectly planned out and executed, I think.
I agree completely. It's like, not only is it just, you know, like a very different kind of story that you would like, I've never read anything like that in manga. But the execution is just perfect and consistent and just tense and just like gripping the entire way through.
I concur. So I think this is a 3 out of 3, 10 out of 10. It's not it will never be my number one, but it's really close. It surprised me because I've been putting it off. Maddie's like, you need to read Monster. You need to read Monster. Tina, you need to read Monster. And I'm like, it's not up my alley. This is not what I'm interested in. Does it have supernatural stuff in it? Does it have romance? Does it, besides the name Monster, does it actually have supernatural monsters in it? No. Okay, then it's not mine. No, it doesn't have any of that, but it's amazing.
And we'll have to watch it too. Real quick, my lovely friend Whitney asked, might I have a new reader definition of manga? Yeah. So manga is Japanese comics, like Trent said. Basically, that's just like, that's what they call it in Japan. And so in America and everywhere else, that's just the best way for us to refer to it. Because it does feel very different than like Western comic books.
It has its own set of tropes, its own sort of stereotypes. So it's created a sort of bubble in itself for its own comics. So it's Japanese comics, but manga, when you say manga, you know exactly what type of comics you're talking about. And it's very individually housed in its nice little package.
And Whitney, when I have Tina and Heather over to watch Monster, you should watch it with us too. Because it's very good.
But like in the same vein, like where there's, you know, like a lot of tropes that you see in these manga, like I don't think that Monster adheres to like almost any of that.
No.
Besides the lone wolf and cub.
Unique. Yeah. Like there's that kind of thing, but that's in fiction, you know, across cultures.
Right.
But it's so unique. I couldn't recommend it strongly enough.
Oh yeah, I think it's going to be one of my, like, Monster's going to be a top 5 for me always. And that's very specially reserved. So I have some questions for you all.
Yeah.
Gabby has a really great question. What are some manga to anime adaptations that you guys think are the best? I always take book to screen adaptations very seriously. So do I. Here, let me move me to the bottom because you guys are the guests.
Good question. I think that the 97 Berserk adaptation is almost perfect. They cut out a lot of the like the yucky stuff, and some of the good stuff they also cut out, like some cool side stuff. But if you're just looking for like an entry level thing to check it out, it's like just incredible. Again, like same with Monster, the soundtrack elevates it to like a very different level than just reading it would. Like when I read the manga afterwards, I just had the soundtrack on the entire time because the mood was perfect.
Absolutely.
I have such a hard time answering that question because a lot of things that I've read, I've picked up the manga because I've watched the anime rather than vice versa. The only exception to that rule was Inuyasha because I read the manga before the anime came out. I was reading Scanslations back in the day in '98 online on this little third-party website. So that's the only one I can really compare. You know, outside of that, I've picked up the manga after I've watched, you know, the anime.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, it's really tough. Like Sailor Moon is an amazing, you know.
Oh, manga's great. That's one that
the manga is
do
actually
read and watch.
Right. That's another one I've read and watched. The manga has a lot more in depth. The anime, it's very good and it set its own sort of tropes, but it was very much monster of the episode feel for the very first little part of it. The movies are slightly different. I guess you could say monster movie, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would have to say Inuyasha. And Inuyasha, I think the very first part, the very first season follows very, very closely to the, you know, the manga. Another one from Rumiko Takahashi is Mermaid's Forest. That one, if you're able to get a hold of the OAVs, that one was done very, very well. I think they're very much on par with each other, and they're excellent. If you can get the manga's been re-released, which is nice. It's reprint it, go out, get it. It's one of my favorites. It used to be very rare and very hard to get your hands on.
Yeah, I'd say for me, if I read the manga, I'm very unlikely to go and watch the anime. So like sometimes I'll watch an anime and then it'll be done-ish, like for the season, but there's a ton more manga. And so I'll go and read all the manga and I'm never going to go back if I'm ahead of the time. So like that makes it really difficult. So like Promised Neverland, like One Piece, yeah, because I read it now. But I watched it up until I was done or caught up.
Well, and then Promised Neverland, that's a good one too. So Promised Neverland.
That one did not have a good adaptation.
Well, it's not a good adaptation. Read the manga on that one.
Yeah.
The first season for Promised Neverland is excellent. After that, forget about it.
You really dropped the ball. I was upset. Like very upset, like angry.
Yeah, because I was planning on watching it. And I was like, no. All right, you guys.
They punted it really hard.
Now, a new recent sort of anime that's come out that is really nice, and I suggest if you guys haven't watched it, it's The Season. It's Shadow's House. It is it may have started as a webcomic, but it follows very closely to the manga, and it looks much lighter than it actually is. So if you guys I don't want to do too many spoilers because it's just now coming out. It's, you know, the seasons. It's fantastic. Go watch, go read.
I think another one that sticks like really, really close until like the end part is Akira, but I think that's just because they were trying to get it into like a film length.
See, I cannot agree with that at all.
Which one's better?
Oh, I don't think about it in terms of that, but like
they're different. Last
year, I don't know if it was for this show or another show, but I read Akira, and I was like, okay, cool. And then I was like, you know what? Before the show, because I have time, Elliot, let's watch the movie because we had enough time. And then I watched the movie, and I was like, Elliot, this doesn't happen. None of this happens. What? Who's this?
They go off the rails. It starts
I was like
I think
where
the
is
first
Akira?
2 volumes, it's like pretty spot on. And then they were just like, okay, what do we do?
Well,
we can't wrap that up.
Well, yeah, because Akira the movie came out before everything else was done, and so they just sort of like had to do whatever, and it is so different. Which is fine. I think they're both fine as is, but
yeah,
but
they're both
if you read
very
it first,
good in
you're
very
like,
different ways.
I think that happens with a lot of
What?
anime adaptations, unfortunately, especially
I wanna look
now.
at Full Metal Alchemist, but I like
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
what I was
man.
gonna say. Is Full
Yeah.
Metal
love both.
Alchemist
Yeah.
when they
I-
started the original one, the manga wasn't finished, so they were just like, "LOL, what are we gonna do now? Fillers? Okay, let's just redo this." And it takes this like loop-de-loop, and then it deviates.
So I
But-
got an Ouroboros tattoo when the first series was airing, and then the like Brotherhood came out, and I was like, well, this is better. The property value of the tattoo just went up.
Yeah, see? I loved both
Sometimes
of them.
it works out.
So I was like, which is such a weird thing. Like, you don't often get to see shows just completely redo it. Like, okay, well, let's redo it. I mean, like, Hunter x Hunter and like JoJo and stuff, but like, not often.
And they keep trying to do it with Berserk, and then it just gets worse every time, and I get upset.
Yeah.
I tried watching it. I was like, you know what? I'll do Omar a favor and I'll watch this. Yeah, no, okay, let's turn that off. That was horrible.
I like the Blu-ray movies, but like,
You like the Blu-rays?
that's all I've seen.
There's,
Okay.
I think there's actually, it might be back up on YouTube. They keep taking it off because it's definitely not allowed. But
No, it's not.
there's like an 8-hour supercut that combines the 97 series with the movies from 2012 and 2013, and that's like probably the best way to watch it.
Okay.
But, and also, cool thing about that, because they use the dub. It's the same voice cast from 97 to 2012.
Oh, that's
nice.
really
Like,
cool.
which is wild, but you can definitely tell how much better they've gotten and how much better the direction's gotten with the voice work since then. But I think it's really cool that they have the same voice cast across it.
I love that. That's awesome. Wait, what? It's like Dragon Ball. No one cares about Garlic Jr. showing up while Goku's off being a bad dad. Well, that's a show that definitely was like, how much more can we add to this?
They will not let that guy retire.
Well, I can't get into it. Whenever I get to my thoughts about Dragon Ball, people get upset at me. They're like, it's supposed to be for fun. I'm like, I know it is. It's a shonen. I watch shonen, but we can all agree that maybe Oda in One Piece like develops all of his characters and not one of them.
Yeah, that's why. So like, I do genuinely really like Dragon Ball, but like everything after that is not very good.
Yeah. Well, I love Vegeta and Gohan, and they're like, we could let them be really, really good, but we need Goku to always win.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be real. Like, we all watch Dragon Ball. We all know and love those characters. I love so many of these characters. I love Vegeta. But there's a lot of problems with this, and it's not even like problematic material. It's just like, I've seen this character like marry this character. They're the same character essentially.
Yeah. And women don't ever get any better. Like, they just don't.
So bad.
But I love it. I love
fight.
As much as I love donking on Dragon Ball, it's a decent series. It's the gateway series for a lot of older anime characters, and there are a lot of characters that people still look up to that they went through hard times for. This is a character, and yeah, that's a comfort anime for a lot of people. It's comfort manga.
Carly,
yeah,
you know what I mean. He gets strong.
I mean, he's developed. But
so funny.
He's not developed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, as an anime fan and manga fan, I just have to accept and apologize for certain things. So my co-host, my Sunday show, Fangirls Assemble, Kristen, she's been reading manga and stuff, but she's getting into some more of it, older stuff or older anime and things. And I just have to be like, yeah, that's just how it was. As a long time manga reader compared to comics, a lot of times I'll excuse things in manga that I would never excuse in Western comics. I'm just like, I don't know what to tell you. Love Hina is what it is. They're naked all the time. I don't know.
Naked all the time. The stereotypes of
all the panty shots. I don't know. If it was a Western comic as panty shots, I'd be like, no. And that's something I have to work out with myself. Because I'm just like, I don't know what it is. I can't stop him. I don't know. This is what it was. This is what we grew up with.
I mean, who didn't have a deadbeat dad in the 80s and 90s?
I mean, as common as it is, it's
Gabby,
gotta just depend.
The answer is
everything.
yes. However, I will say, as a One Piece evangelist, basically, I I could not get into the beginning, and I tried several times, and it did not work for me. I started a later arc, the Water 7 arc, and that worked best for me personally. I also really liked watching the anime. So I guess it just depends on what you feel comfortable with. If you start it and you like it right away, awesome. If you don't and you're like, I need something more, and you look at already kind of developed story, you can watch the like season summaries. I would recommend starting at Water 7, and then go back once you like it and you're adjusted and you want to know more about the lore. And because then the whole crew's together and there's sad backstories and it's great. That's how I feel. But Tina and Heather watched all of it.
Mm-hmm. So we've watched it. I've watched it 3 times over, up to episode 720 some. Mm-hmm. So we watched it 3 times over. We would just watch it while we were working on cosplay and stuff. We did start at the very, very beginning because Maddie's like, you need to watch this. You need to watch this. And I'm a completionist, so I have to start at the beginning. But I did read summaries too to kind of help flesh out because the art, Oda improves so much. Do not turn away from the art. A lot of people do that. Don't turn away from the art. The pacing's a little off in the beginning. It's a little slow. You're going to hate certain characters that you will absolutely adore, after Oda reaches his speed. Once he starts running, you're going to stick with him. You're just like, oh yeah, I'm in this for the long haul.
Yeah.
But you have to get to that point. And if you're somebody who's like, I don't have, I'm not able to sit down and watch 5 seasons, then it'll get you. But it will get you. You will cry over a freaking boat.
It's a 10 out of 10 series. I've never seen anyone do world building as good as he does. I
can believe that.
Like it's like Game of Thrones level, but better as far as like world building and keeping track of everyone. Everyone gets developed. There's so many pieces there. That was a dumb joke.
Too many.
Too many. There's more than one. It's phenomenal, honestly.
Right.
I really do believe that. And I think when we get to the end, we're all going to be very, very satisfied.
We're very going to, yes, absolutely. And it's just going to take to a point. There will be a point when it no longer feels like you're doing this to see what all the hype is about and you're actively enjoying it. Oh, yeah. It's going to be different for every person. Like Water 7 was a good jumping off point. I do agree with Maddie, but read some synopsis if you're going to start at that point, because you're not going to know who the characters are. I do say that most people don't like Skypiea. You could probably skip Skypiea. Yeah,
well, there's like 10-minute summaries. There's a guy who does like arc summaries. It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
But I watch them to remind myself before I do my One Piece reviews because there's so much happens.
I will say, having started at the beginning, you're going to pick up on subtle things that Oda inserts in the very beginning that doesn't have relevance until far, far, far into the future. Mm-hmm. And I'm still waiting for some things to come around. Will they come around? Maybe. I hope so.
I am too.
What is up with Enel in the moon?
Yeah, what is up with him? He's been in the moon for like 800 chapters.
Right, and everybody's like, what? He went to the moon?
Oda doesn't do anything just to do it. He doesn't. Everything comes back.
Oh, Bonnie's going to be Luffy's mom.
I know.
Right?
Thank you. I agree.
Who doesn't see that? It's obvious.
She can change her age, and she eats a lot. She's his mom.
Yeah, come on.
That's the whole connection.
I'm surprised that Dragon's his dad. I was like,
listen, you could talk One Piece theories for hours. Hours. But we can't go there.
Yeah, don't watch the 4Kids dub.
So I have a question for you.
So I don't know. Is it as a drinking game? Because that's fine.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Oh yeah.
So I have a question for you two. What would be an anime or manga or both that you would recommend most to someone new to the medium?
Dang.
We have a lot of comic book readers here too that maybe don't read.
Modern or something older?
Anything.
I've got like a whole list. It depends. Like,
let me just set this list
kind
down.
Of like genre stuff that you're already into, I think would definitely affect it. Like I think the Ghost in the Shell standalone complex series were like a really good jumping off point if you're like a sci-fi person. if you like the true crimes, Monster is absolutely something that you should try to find.
Mhm.
It's not easy to find, but if you can, then it's great. Obviously, like the older stuff, the classics like Cowboy Bebop, you know, the Comfort series that I go back to a lot. Those
Still holds up.
Yeah, like those are really easy to go back to. And I think like there was this like golden point in animation in like the late 90s where they weren't like going all in on like CG stuff yet, that that like those are great to start off with. Man, I'm trying to remember.
My suggestions would be like, yeah, you're gonna have to find, and that's hard because if you want like a reader advisory, pinpoint it and jump off into something you're already interested in a different media. So if you're interested in superheroes, My Hero Academia. If you want to do the manga, check out Vigilantes, because that's a good sort of stepping point. It's talking about anti-heroes, heroes, but it's a very sort of Western concept taken over into Japanese manga and anime. It's a very good starting point for somebody that's into Western comics. If you like more slice of life, but you're like me and you like a little bit of supernatural, I would suggest Natsumi's Book of Friends. It's very much about a boy just living his life, but he's surrounded by the supernatural. He can see supernatural, but it hits his connections to the people. That's the most interesting thing in that, you know, world. So find something that you're very interested in. If it's romance, you know, Sailor Moon's a good starting off. It's old, but it's perfect. Or even, you know, or in Host Club, if you're younger.
Yeah. And that's a show I'd like to do. I didn't talk about doing panels like that, but I think it would work well as a live show format where
as a reader's advisory or watcher's advisory.
Like, hey, we will recommend manga based on the thing that you like as a TV show or a movie or video game or activity or whatever. Like if you like D&D, watch Slayers. I think.
Yeah.
Because
so
Slayers
good.
is the best.
So good.
Or watch Shield Hero because I just want everyone to watch Shield Hero ever.
Right. If you're into that sort of weird sci-fi space opera, Crest of Stars is one of my favorite, like sci-fi, and like people don't ever hear about it. It's one of those rare ones, but it's very much sort of a Star Trek, you know, anime adaptation with sort of weird races and their connections.
Yeah. If you like heist movies, The Great Pretender on Netflix, which just came out like last year, is
super
10
good.
out of 10, literally perfect. Tina, please watch it.
What is it?
The Great Pretender on Netflix.
Oh yeah, I started to watch it and I kind of stopped.
Well, you can't. You gotta get to the heist, girl.
I gotta get to the heist.
The slice of life stuff too, I think, is like really easy to like ease yourself in if you're not sure like what kind of genre you want to go to and you just want to test out the medium a little bit. One of my favorites was Kids on the Slope, which was another one that was directed by the same guy that did Cowboy Bebop. Just a super touching personal story about like kids in post-war Japan.
Now, I will say, if you're looking for just any starting recommendation, if you want to do an anime, Bakano.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That is a good across the board.
You better pay attention.
Pay attention.
You gotta pay attention to the first 2 episodes.
It's going to flip you on your head. But it's definitely, it meets sort of these different markers.
God, it's so good.
It's so good. So
that's one of my top 10 favorites too. It's like Bakano and Monster and One Piece. Edgar and Lana's my favorite.
So One Piece I wouldn't suggest for somebody just dipping their toes in because that's an investment. But Bakano is what, one season? It's a mystery, but it's from
it's good.
The late 2000s. I think it's like 2008, 2007.
Yeah, that sounds right.
It's really good, and I think it holds up now. And it has a little bit of everything.
I agree on the dub. I think the dub is very good.
The dub is so good. Yeah, I can't say that about a lot of things, but that's like definitely like I think the bar that you want to hit.
Like the shows I champion for the dub for, I'm like really hardcore about the dub for, and I have a degree in Japanese. I can watch subs, but I think if the dub is good, the dub is good. Like Gurren Lagann, I will not watch the sub.
Oh,
I love the
dub. Oh, really?
I'm not a huge fan of the dub.
I'm a dub.
I
all
watched
all
the
voice
sub.
actors are great, but I think there's a lot less emotion to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just personal preference, but
Right, and
I think the cast is still very good.
Yeah, and I think it's when you sort of hopped in, because let's face it, when I hopped in to watching anime, the voice acting, they were just paying, they're great actors now, but they were basically like, hey, you want to come to my basement and voice this character?
Well, think about Lunar, the video game. The voice for Alex is literally a guy that was like, a janitorial staff or something, and they were like, hey, do you want to read for this? Voice for Alex forever. This random guy.
I wish I had been there back in those days, so I could be just like, yeah, can I do this voice? Can I do this voice, guys? Because I would so totally be in on that. But so I got spoiled, because I shouldn't say I got spoiled. I got turned off on dub very quickly. But there's certain things like Slayers that I'm just so used to, and you watch and you start watching something that when you switch over, it just feels wrong.
Lisa Ortiz is the only way. I can't listen to Lena Inverse not be Lisa Ortiz.
Yeah.
Also, she's so pretty in person. I
couldn't say.
Oh my God, Alex. She asked me for my picture.
Oh, wow.
Also, we danced on stage together at a rave.
Oh my God.
She gave me a hug. I wasn't Lena Inverse.
Just checking that off the bucket list.
Oh,
let's just say I've watched these in Japanese so much, I don't know who the English voice actors are, except for some well-known people, and they're usually problematic people, but that's a whole nother subject.
We don't talk about Monoga.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Never.
Bananas?
Never heard of them.
Okay.
But Lisa Ortiz. I don't know many people's names, but I know her.
Okay.
And Kyle Hebert, who voiced Kami.
I swear I have face blindness. I would know who these people are. I'm like,
no, I wouldn't.
I saw it pop up for a second, but the comment on Carol and Tuesday. Carol and Tuesday is also perfect. That's another Watanabe series.
Oh, so good.
So good. So good.
I need to finish that one.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. But I love anything with music in it too. Netflix US does not have Sailor Moon.
I think
it's on
does.
Hulu.
Yeah. That's where I was watching it on.
Tina, will you be coming back for future episodes of Old Reader New Reader for Slice of Life manga, Man and His Cat? Oh my God, that's the best. Alex,
I have Maddie's first volume.
Have to read A Man and His Cat.
Okay.
Oh my God. Okay, let me tell you about it real quick. Okay, I'll try to not cry about it when I talk about it. No problem. So there's this really ugly cat. And he's real fat. And he's real ugly. And he's been in like the get adopted place for like a year. Nobody's adopted him. They all go for the cute cats. But in walks this old man, and he adopts him. He's like, "What? What do you mean?" And he adopts him because his wife died. And before she died, she said she really wanted a cat. And so this old guy and this really fat cat, and they make a home together, and it's so great.
Adorable.
It's adorable.
Amazing.
It's so good. I mean, it's not sad. It's really happy. But when Kristen told me about it before I even read it, I just cried. So I was like, what? So good. I have to read the manga. Personally, I struggle to read the subtitles fast enough. I cannot stand the voice acting in some anime. Yeah, I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I've just adjusted with dubs.
Others, but it's really up to preference on a lot of them, because like voice direction has gotten great recently.
Yeah, the talent's improved, and people do improve. You can tell the difference, like Greg Ayres when he first started versus, his latest stuff. Yeah. Like some of the voice actors, I couldn't tell who they were. But it's also nice to listen in Japanese and pick up that, is that...
I know when it's Zoro.
It's Law's voice. It's Zoro's voice. Yeah.
Zoro or Chopper, I'm like,
that's it. So it's nice to pick that up. But the great thing about dubs is that if you're working on projects, you don't necessarily have to sit there and, read, where, subs, you have to be focused on it. If you don't know Japanese, you don't, there's certain animes that I can just watch in the background and I know what's going on, but.
Trent, you're so right. That's my real agenda, crying over everything. All right, so I've already kept them way over time, but I wanted to make sure we had some nice anime manga chat talk. But thank you both so much.
Hey, thank you.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, this was a hangout. This wasn't a...
it felt really relaxing and nice. I like to do it. Do it again. Have you guys on? Read something else. Read a manga. Read a comic. Whatever. You guys are open to a different type of medium or something.
Always.
I've been trying to branch out more. I'm usually just like a pretty just watch the anime kind of guy, but I've definitely been trying to read more stuff recently. So yeah, shoot me the recommendations and then I'll dig in.
Yeah,
I'd love for all of us to read Chainsaw Man.
Oh,
that's
I love
high on a lot of
Chainsaw
people's
Man.
lists, and that's on Shonen's Jump.
The Shonen Jump app. Everyone should get
which I have
$2 a month.
Yeah, everybody. If you don't have Shonen Jump app, I wish there was more. I wish there was like a shoujo version of it.
The Shoujo
Get
Beat
it?
app or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
If we could have Shoujo Beat app, I would lose my mind. I would do nothing else.
Oh my god.
After I bought the deluxe editions of Berserk, it Amazon has been doing nothing but trying to push Chainsaw Man on me, so I'm like, well, gotta be good, right?
I love Chainsaw Man. Not as much as I love Jujutsu Kaisen, which has been my other
recent fave
that I'm trying to push on literally everyone.
I cannot wait for more of that. It's that's every couple of years, I start to get kind of burnt out on anime, and it's just getting samey.
Then they throw you. They're like, hey. Have you tried this? This just came out.
Before Jujutsu Kaisen, the last one that did that to me was Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans, which is just heart-wrenching and incredible, and a very different kind of story than they've told in that. But I was just so burnt out on everything before that, and then Jujutsu Kaisen just did the same thing where I'm just soon as I think I'm out, they pull me right back in.
I know. I was obsessed. So mad about it. Why is it so good? We'll have to do a Jujutsu Kaisen episode.
Yeah.
Wait, what? I feel like we're some of the few people who put Jujutsu Kaisen over Chainsaw Man. I love both, but I think Jujutsu Kaisen is better.
It's better.
I mean, it is. Not to do that to it, but Jujutsu Kaisen's out there subverting tropes, okay?
See, I can't comment because I need to read Chainsaw Man first. I have a list of things I need to read, which is Spy X Family, Chainsaw Man. There was something else that was on my list that I want to go back and read that I've watched. Seraph of the End. I need to go back and read that one, and I've watched the anime. One. I loved the anime. Mm-hmm. So I really want to go back and read that and kind of see how that develops because it kind of dropped in the middle.
Yeah, I don't remember.
That was one of those ones where they were just okay, we decided the anime's done, wrap it up.
Done. Good. I hate that. I absolutely hate
the most frustrating thing ever.
All shoujo anime ever. Except for Chihaya Furu.
same with Berserk, same with Monster. That's Seraph of the End is another one of those ones where the soundtrack just elevates it so much higher.
Yeah.
That's what's his name? It's the guy that did the Gurren Lagann soundtrack. He did the Kill la Kill soundtrack. He did the Promare soundtrack.
And the Gurren Lagann soundtrack is perfect.
Soundtrack.
Everything. I love Gurren Lagann. All right.
Amazing.
Oh yeah, D. Gray Man. That's another one that's on my list to go back and read.
Okay, so let me actually properly wrap it up. You two don't go anywhere after this. Once I end it, you don't technically leave, so don't leave. Just let me stop the broadcast. Anyways, so thank you both so much for hanging out.
No problem.
You can find Tina here on the channel from time to time. And you can find Alex in the information down below on his Twitch channel, which you should watch because he's super chill and just fun to watch and listen to. And yeah, and I'll be back next week with Invincible.
Ooh.
So Omar and Dan are joining me for that, which I'm really excited about. We're reading the first compendium. So luckily, if you're watching the show, which I did and obsessed about, you're not going to be really spoiled that much because we're not reading the whole thing. Because I told them I didn't want to. I want to watch the whole show. I want to watch it as it comes out and be surprised. So yeah, that's what we'll be doing. And definitely we'll be bringing on Alex and Tina again. Because that's how this works. You show on the show once, and I'm like, I want to come back.
Recurring guest.
But yeah,
and hey, guys, thank you guys so much. And if you haven't already, if you just popped in, if you're seeing this later, leave us a comment down below. I do actually read those, and I do actually respond to some of those comments. Subscribe to us. And I'm also on TikTok as White Cat Cosplay. I haven't posted a while, but I'm also on Instagram. You can find me White Cat Cosplay if you like cosplay.
All right. Good night, everybody. And
Night.
see you next week.